a presentation that is pertaining to interpersonal communication. When I say turn, you may turn to the next slide. So now you may turn to slide number 2. Thank you. On this slide is the introduction. And the purpose of the presentation is to provide you with information pertaining to my understanding of developing and maintaining healthy communication skills. It will also give the results of my behavior blends that were given as a result of taking the Uniquely You survey. It will also provide possible reasons for the survey finding. You may now turn the slide to the next slide, please. And on the next slide, it says, my overarching goal is to have more connected communication with others. This objective can be achieved by paying more attention to what other people are saying. So as you talking, as other people are talking, and you tend to pay more attention and be non-biased in your listening, and you tend to make sure that you get a clear understanding of what they're saying. You tend to, once you do this, you tend to get more of a connection, an interconnection with people. And however, listening is a skill that should be worked on daily. We need to work on our listening skills and build on it, so that we may become better and more effective listeners. And we tend to connect better with others when we listen on purpose. We need to try to listen on purpose, and listening on purpose means that we should try to make it out. We should make every attempt to listen to everything that person is saying, and even try to connect with them at a more deeper level. And next, I would like for you to turn to the next slide. On the next slide, it says, after obtaining information from the readings, I started to pay more attention to my behaviors while listening. As a result of self-monitoring, I have noticed that my mind tends to wander while listening to others speak. And a lot of times when other people are speaking, I tend to wonder and dread off and think about other things. So I need to take more time to think about and listen and pay more attention to what's going on around me. And next, we would like to turn to the next slide. And the next slide says, the information in the text states that the lack of focus while others are talking may occur due to a time lag. Time lag can happen due to the fact that most people can only speak at a pace of 200 words per minute, but the listener takes in information at a rate of 300 to 500 words per minute, meaning that people talk at a much slower rate than we are able to listen and take in. So during those pauses when people are talking, a lot of times our mind, and I know mine as I've been self-monitoring, tends to drift as people are talking. So I need to try to work more on that skill as trying to stay more in tune during those pauses and use those pauses more wisely, like either trying to restate in my mind or rehearse what they're saying, or trying to develop a deeper meaning as to what they're saying during these pauses. Okay, and next I would like to turn your attention to our next slide. Fortunately, there are ways to address daydreaming in the midst of listening to others. As a result of my observation, I have started taking notes of the main points of the speaker, as the main points the speaker is trying to convey. So a lot of times, if it at all possible, such as in church settings or in meetings on the job or different places, wherever at all possible, I can take out a notepad and just start jotting down little notes or ideas as people are talking, whenever at all possible, and try to make sure that I pay close attention so that I can grasp what the speaker is saying and get a better meaning and a better understanding of his or her message. I would like to ask you to turn to our next slide. And the next slide is, as part of the course requirements, I participated in the Uniquely You questionnaire. And as a result of this questionnaire, it showed that my personality tends to be in the SC or CS character traits. And I'd like for you to turn to the next slide, please, because this is where I will kind of go into more detail as to what this means. Okay, as we read the next slide, it says, having a CS or SC personality means that I tend to be passive. Passive behavior means that I tend to be more laid back when dealing with situations. And passive behavior can be displayed in several ways. I have displayed this behavior in the following ways: doing things I do not want to do, compromising my beliefs in order to please others. And that right there has been very unfortunate, because it has caused me to lose a little bit of a connection that I could have with others. And as you turn to the next slide, my background has influenced my behavior and has had a negative influence on my conversations. As a passive person, I tend to speak information that will impress others. This trait has made me feel imprisoned in my own body. Many times I regret not saying what I truly want to say to others. And next, I would like to ask for you to turn to the next slide. Coming from a history of verbal and physical abuse has influenced me to be passive. This has led me to display behavior that doesn't represent the person I truly am. As a survivor of domestic violence, saying these things to please my abuser was a coping tool that I utilized regularly to avoid confrontation. I would like for you to go to the next slide, please. The next slide, please. And on the next slide, passiveness has been a barrier in my interpersonal communication skills. Because I do not speak my true feelings, many people have stated that I come across as fake. These comments used to anger me, but now I understand why they may feel this way. In the past, daydreaming while others are annoying me has been one tool used to cope with annoying people. Next slide, please. Passive behavior when communicating with others has not been a positive trait. It has hindered me from being the person that I really am. This behavior has blocked others from seeing life through my personal perspective. Presently, I am participating in counseling sessions to address these problems. And the next slide, I'd like for you to turn to the next slide. And in addition to counseling, I will utilize many of the techniques highlighted in the readings, such as I will utilize the talker-listener cards that were discussed in the readings. I will take meaningful notes whenever it is possible, and I will summarize what the talker is saying. And also, I'd like to, on the next slide, please. And in the next slide, I would like to address the internal and external noise that can be very distracting. And dealing with this can be very challenging. There are 2 steps to listening more effectively that I will integrate into my communication skills in order to help eliminate some of this internal and external noise. And that will be found on the next slide. Moving to a quiet location whenever possible. Taking notes while listening. These are the tools that I will use to enhance my listening skills. And please turn to the next slide. My overarching goal to improve my interpersonal communication skills, which will invite others to join the conversation, even when there is resistance or conflict. This can be achieved by working harder in the following areas. Utilize the talker-listener card whenever possible. Please turn to the next slide, where it will continue on with listening without nexting. Listen without being judgmental. I will restate what the other person says in order to gain a clear understanding of the message. And on the next slide, we should communicate negative experiences as well as positive experiences with others. Negative point of views are important and should be shared with others. However, this should be presented in a respectful way whenever we talk about our negative points, and we should adapt to other people's way of communicating in order to connect with them. And I would like to ask you to move to our next final slide before we go to our references. And in conclusion, listening is a skill that I should work at on purpose in order to be a more effective listener. I will use some of the techniques outlined in the book to become a better listener. These techniques are, but not limited to, talker-listener card, note-taking, and counseling. And as you move to the next 2 slides, those are my references. And I thank you and appreciate you for your time and your time spent in listening and viewing this presentation. Thank you.